folks, welcome back. Tracks and Tackles. We got another riveting episode here. We are with Jason Rohrer and his son here, Ethan. They're turkey hunting enthusiasts. They're call makers, call collectors, avid outdoorsmen, and they just love to be out in the woods when they can. Excited to have them on. Learn a little bit here about turkey call making and a little bit of what is out there to learn from. So, Jason, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, happy to have you guys on. We love turkey here, and we love talking about the outdoors, so it's good to have you two on and just take some time here and get behind the camera. So, a question I don't think we ever really got into, but, what started your journey with hunting?
I'd have to say my father and my grandfather started that. I remember just being a little kid, 6, 7 years old, chasing rabbits on my grandfather's farm. Moved on to deer hunting. Had a couple bad experiences missing my first couple years, but once I shot that first one, it just excelled from there. I just found peace being in the woods,
Yeah.
like it was like a tranquility type thing, just, all the nature. You never knew what you were going to stumble upon or, see or experience, so it just became a passion. And I enjoyed that time spent with my family, my father and uncles and stuff like that.
Yeah, just memories made. You can't replace them. But yeah, I can remember mistakes. I still make mistakes, as we all do up to this year. But
Yeah.
you're younger. It seems like a lot more frustrating. But there's been years where I wanted to throw the gun in the trash. But,
Yeah, you're harder on yourself,
yep.
I think.
They're the toughest critics. But it keeps you going out when you have a little bit of success and you have fun when you're out in the woods. But
Absolutely.
yeah, you guys love turkey, and when I got to meet you guys ultimately, it was probably about a year and a half ago, and I was talking to Ethan here, and turkey. Once the turkey calls work, you give out a couple yelps, and then you hear a big response. Well, I learned Ethan here likes the turkey hunt.
Oh yeah.
And so we started to have some small talk, and then the big gobbler came in, and then me and you started talking, and
I remember that day he come home and was like, "Dad, the guy at my physical therapy, he wants to talk to you about turkeys." I'm like, "Oh yeah, absolutely." He was all excited about it.
Yeah, so it's a blast looking back here. But I think as I talk to you more, just learn about your passion for call making and call collecting. How did you get into that?
I can't per se exactly. No, it was long before that. What really got me into it, I guess like 89, 90, I got, basically, we fall hunted when I was a kid prior to that. Never really knew much about calling, or knowing what to do in the fall other than we'd break flocks up, stumbled across them. And, if we got into a turkey, we got into a turkey. It was always like, you look forward to that for Thanksgiving. Back then you could, shoot them prior to Thanksgiving. And then I ran into a guy at a job one time, and I kept hearing him on this mouth call, running this mouth call nonstop. To most people,
practice when you can.
Would get on their nerves. But to me, it was like, man, I need to go talk to this guy, So I got to talking to him, and he's like, "Did you ever spring gobbler hunt?" I was like, never tried it. He's like, "Man," he said, you gotta go out with me sometime." So we went out, place over in Perry County, some farm he knew, and literally I'll never forget, I watched this gobbler. It basically came across 2 fields, crossed a hard road, under a barbed wire fence, and then hung up in a yard or in another field about 85, 90 yards away from us. Would never come no closer. But man, it just did something to me, and I'm like, I will never not do this,
Right.
Like I'm just glued on this. And then I started finding interest in how the way calls were made, what made them kind of click to get the sound they were producing out of them and things like that. So I just started buying calls, not to tear them apart or anything like that. Just, every call has a different sound to them, no matter what you're using. So it just started buying from there was a catalog it's still a website now that you can buy from, but it was called Midwest. So I started buying, calls from people here and there out of that book. And then I started finding out about all these custom call makers, like I've just started researching, people from Pennsylvania and just found out, because I was always passionate about Pennsylvania call makers. So I just started trying to focus on collecting calls from that older generation, like stuff that really wasn't on the market anymore, but it was still out there. So I just started going from there, and then it just got crazy. Like I fell in love with custom calls and all the uniqueness about them, and just the way people designed them, and it just fascinated. It still does. I mean,
Right.
it's it gives me goosebumps just talking about it. I enjoy it that much, and there's not a day goes by I don't play some type of turkey call. I mean, it's they're everywhere in my house, so it's kind of hard not to focus on picking one up and running it.
Right. Yeah, you can't walk by one and not want to touch it, but it's pretty neat, kind of, where you go about it, because we like to say, you got bit by the bug,
Oh
and then
yeah,
you're hooked.
Right.
So
Yep.
for me, last summer is bass fishing, and then a little before that it's turkey. But bass fishing, you can fish all the time, basically, besides the winter when it's cold.
right.
So, talking to you about turkey and getting to talk about it more and more gets you, that itch to get back out. So, get more into turkey hunting, because from youth I never really did much of it.
Yep,
I went on a time or two with Dad, but it wasn't anything special. We were a big deer hunting family. So now that I'm getting out more turkey hunting, and it's warmer, it's nice to get out. You can move around.
Oh
You can
yeah.
make noises.
Yep.
I'm getting more passionate about it. My call collection, it's going to stem from you guys, but maybe you're going to turn me into a little bit of a monster.
And there is no rehab for it. I can tell you that.
I'll tell you. So I'll jump in here because what you said about like getting started, like doing fall turkey and stuff.
Yeah.
So like I grew up not being a turkey hunter, and I'm probably, I hunt turkeys, but I'm not a turkey hunter like some guys like yourself are.
Yeah.
But there's something about, because I was going archery hunting one fall with my family, and where our cabin is, there's a mountain road that sort of winds up through to get to our cabin on the top of the hill, but there's a gate at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
You got to unlock the gate, and there's a flock of birds at the gate, and they were walking up the hill, and I knew right where they were headed, which maybe 200 yards from where our camp was. So, we whined and got everything and got up to camp and had the shotguns with us. So we went and we broke up that group.
Mm-hmm.
And once you got them busted up,
oh man,
then it's fun.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to reconvene and things like that. And that was my first experience. I shot a hen in the fall.
Yep.
And I thought I was something else. Like these turkey hunters tell me how hard it is. Like, this isn't that hard, but since then, going out and learning a little bit about the sport, trying to figure gobblers out, there really is, you study your prey.
Oh yeah.
And you got to convince them that you're the best looking hen in the woods that they haven't met yet.
Right.
In the springtime. But it's interesting how you get one exciting moment and you do get bit by the bug.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
And
we all get started some way, but I didn't have somebody, I'm sure, Ethan, you had your dad take you out and show you some of this stuff. I really didn't have that. I just got lucky one day, fell into a flock of birds and got them busted up. And then, a bunch of us had a lot of fun trying to get them rounded up.
I was kind of the same way. I'll never forget the first spring gobbler I ever shot on my own. I was new to it myself, I had a bird that was above me. I was actually down on another logging road, and he was strutting back and forth on this road above me. Well, had I known, I would have never called to that turkey. I would have circled up around that bird. Got on the same level as him. No, I sit down below him and I'm calling. This bird's gobbling. I watched him for probably a half hour, 45 minutes. just out of shotgun range.
Yep.
And I'm like, man, what am I doing wrong? Like, what do I got to do to kill this turkey? So I just shut up. I didn't say nothing. And it was like a half an hour. Now he was still up there, not gobbling as much as he was. And fortunately, he come down the hill. I seen him coming and I was ready, and I shot. And I remember jumping up. I was so happy I got my first turkey all on my own. I go out running through the woods, heading back towards my parents' house. And I get out to there's like 3 logging roads that come together. And they all meet out on this one point. And I'm like, oh no. Oh no, I left my turkey calls lay at the tree. Well, instead of like hiding my turkey under some leaves or a log or, nope, I carried that thing the whole way back through the woods and grabbed my calls and back out. Then I went.
We forgot to cover for your one gun when we were.
That scope cover.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever find it?
Yep, I got it. Yeah. Remember, it fell off. That was when your gun went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That happens sometimes.
Yeah,
You get excited out in the forest, and you have a little bit of excitement, and our brains turn to mush.
Oh yeah.
We've all been there. I think it's pretty neat that you learned the art of patience, which it takes the avid hunter a while to learn that lesson, and even the experienced hunter to learn that lesson. But it even means more because you have quite the arsenal of calls and the amount that you have collected. So,
and I do have an arsenal, and I try to change them up. Like, I don't always carry the same calls. Now, there is a couple of specific calls that I do carry with me usually. But, like, I like, if I'm buying them, I like to hunt with them at least once and try to get some, Now, I'll never be able to do that with the amount of calls I have, but I enjoy, and the call makers, like you get that conversation with them, even me, just a small time little tinkering around with calls. I remember last summer, a guy from down south sent me a picture with one of my wing bones laying on his gobbler. And it was like, man, that's cool.
Awesome.
Like this guy used my call and killed that bird with that. And there's been other guys since then, but you just get that feel good about your what you've done.
You contributed to that.
Yeah, it's pretty special. And like I said, the call makers I think enjoy that too. Like for instance, Mike. Like usually when I'm hunting with Ethan, I try to use Mike's calls just because Mike and I are so close.
Right.
But to me, it's extra special if I can send pictures with Ethan and his turkey using what we call him Uncle Mike as his calls. And Mike throws him on his webpage.
Yeah,
and,
it's just awesome to support each other and promote each other. In the call making world.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. We as a community, one of the things that we always talk about is how do we promote one another and cheer one another on.
Yeah.
Because some guys are just so competitive, and I'm competitive by nature.
Yep.
But I want to win whenever I go out and I'm going up against whether it's an animal or any type of sport or whatever.
Yep.
I want to be successful, but how do we as a hunting community really encourage one another and press one another on? So one of the things I want to do is I want to get photos before we leave. Don't let me forget to take pictures of these interesting calls because yes, it's a functional tool. Yeah. But it's also a piece of art.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? I think you said earlier, no 2 calls are the same.
No. They all, to me, I have a pretty good ear. I mean, I'm not the best caller in the world. I will say that, but I know what turkey I like. I know what turkey is. You know what I mean? Now, can I produce that all the time? No, but I do enough that, like I was saying earlier, I think for me, calling less is more. I mean, I've heard, you get out there and you hear these guys and birds just started gobbling on the roost, and this guy over here is blowing an owl hooter, and then he's blowing a crow call, and then he starts cutting on his pot call, and that bird's going to answer him, but he's still up in the tree. 9 times out of 10, that turkey's kind of like, I look at it as they live in the woods 365 days a year.
Their neighborhood.
Yeah, I'm in the woods a couple, months out of the year. They know what's going on, I mean, I've been fortunate. Not saying that I don't sneak and kill turkeys out from under somebody, but I've been in spots where I've been above them turkeys. They were down here, like I said, going crazy, like they've never killed a turkey in their life. And I've made 1 or 2 calls and have killed that turkey.
Legendary.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I think you can overcall a lot. I think a lot of guys do overcall. If you spend enough time in the woods, especially hunting turkeys, you figure things out like that. You know what I mean?
Well, it's just like anything else, any other subject that you study.
Oh, absolutely.
The more that you understand how that bird works, like you're sharing your story about that first bird or one of those birds that, it was coming.
Yeah.
And when you actually witness, I heard a guy tell me one time when I first got started, he said, if it's that bird's day to die, his time's up.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then there are days where they just are not going to come in.
Mm-hmm.
It has to.
Oh yeah, you feel like giving up. There's been days, I mean, I spent days and hours in the woods tracking, and couldn't even find a gobble, and then you go back out a day later and it's like, what the heck? Somebody, just what they do to them,
They just stop the birds. Yeah. So, so tell me a little bit about how you got into making the calls. Like, I guess your first call. What did you start out with? I mean,
well, I had a guy that I met, and I guess it was 2016. His name was Lee Bowles, and it was one of those things where I got invited to just go to a barbecue restaurant with some turkey call guys, just like a group like us.
Yeah,
we get down there and I run into this guy and, he was in a wheelchair. I never met the guy in my life. And I remember he got out of his car and introduced himself and I introduced myself and he was like, come on, let's go in. We'll have a beer. I was like, well, I said, I would, but I don't drink, I said, but I'll go in with you, and I kind of was helping him along in the chair, holding the door, whatever. And we just started talking like there at the restaurant, had lunch, whatever. Well, he had said about he made turkey calls. And I'm like, oh, what do you make? And he's like, oh, I make wing bones. And they call them Jordan style calls for a guy named Charles Jordan.
Okay.
Who basically, I think it was McKinley's book. He writes about they take 2 pieces of river cane, and then usually they would use like a hen bone for a mouthpiece, and then he would wrap it in like sinew, keep it airtight at those joints. Well, Lee made these types of calls, just a little different style, I mean, there's a lot of guys that do it now, too. But he said, well, I'll make one of these for you and I'll send it to you. And I'm like, I never played one of them, And he's like, well, he said, I'll kind of go over with you what to do. So we just started talking, after we had left the barbecue over the phone and things. And man, it turned into a friendship that, I was never expecting,
Yeah.
I mean, he had some health issues. Not stemming from just being in the wheelchair, but there was a time, I guess that December, he had sent me a call already. We just, continued to talk over the phone. Well, I knew he had to go in. He had to have some type of surgery. Like I said, I only known him for like 3 or 4 months. Well, it was Christmas Day and we got up, Rebecca and I with the kids and
Went through hiking.
yeah, I said about, all right, well, what other than the kids just opening the rest of their gifts, or not opening the rest of their gifts, but playing with them, I said, well, let's run down and see Lee, and I'll never forget, like, he was just so taken aback that I took the time on Christmas Day to go visit a guy that I really never even knew. And yeah, I mean, he even told me that many a times, So we just became really, really close. Like, I mean, we'd talk every day pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day he said, hey, he goes, I'm going to teach you how to make wing bones and cane calls. And I was like, no, like, I don't want to do that, dude. I just want to buy them, And he's like, no, he goes, man, you can trade them, you know, like
Yeah.
other call makers will trade you and things like that. So it kind of piqued an interest in me, you know. And so he come down one day and we sat out in my driveway and in my garage, and he just basically showed me the basics from skinning them out to boiling them off, scraping all the gunk out of them.
Yeah.
Didn't give me like specifics on, you know, how much to sand off, how much to let it there. Kind of gave me a rough idea, but it's all, to me, I think it's still all trial and error because there's so many variations in the bone.
Well, that's what I was gonna. I mean, that's one of the questions I got rolling in my head here. You know, as I listen to you talk, Jason. You know, even though like there are specific types of calls that you make.
Yep.
There's got to be like a ton of variation between, because there's no two bones that are exactly like, no two calls that are exactly like.
The woods aren't.
Yeah.
I mean, so there's more dense woods.
The way you do it, it's just the way, you know, the next guy does it might be slightly modified.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. So, you know, it just, he started teaching me how to do that. And then he showed me how to put like, well, I have some examples here.
Yeah, break them out, man. That's the way.
There's, you know, 3-piece bone call. Just like what's in your arm, you know, same things in a turkey.
So fascinating to look at because, like we said, you know, just such an art just to realize that, you know, you're going to process that.
Yeah. And like I said, I think I look back as, you know, like I was saying earlier about back in the Indian times, you know, not that I'm no Indian, but I'm fascinated with all the history about, you know, anything that I can find out about history wise when it comes to that. Like I've seen guys have pictures of wing bones they dug up, you know, like artifacts that now they're not, of course, together. There's like maybe the midsection or like the end bell, but just to see that stuff is like just fascinating. And then this one is an example of a what they call a Jordan style call. It's just 2 pieces of cane, you know, pieced together. Used 243 casing.
Let's see that.
And then a mouthpiece, which I use snow goose bone, which it makes just as good of a mouthpiece, if not better, in my opinion, than a regular hen bone. And these are more, I can get more of them than I can a hen bone.
Right.
You know, I mean, a lot of these guys down south, they can't even get hen bones because they're not really allowed to shoot hens in the fall like we are here in Pennsylvania.
Right.
You know, so, but yeah, I mean, and then it just kind of, you know, I don't do it as a job or not. I mean, I probably have some guys right now that are like, hey man, where's my call? It's been close to a year, you know, but I do it when I'm free. Yeah. And like, you know, I mean, like now we're busy with my daughter's cheer and, you know,
summer,
it's summer.
Family's important.
Yeah. So, and I never wanted to turn it into something like I felt obligated that I had to have it done by a certain time or, you know, I don't know. I think I have 3 at home right now that I know the ones I got a guy that he's a big Clemson Tiger fan. So I'm going to wrap it in orange and maybe put something else on it. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So, and that's, you know, then my buddy Mike Lapp, he's basically most of his calls are on there. Just I brought some variations of stuff he makes, but he got me started on making a scratch box, which I just spent a day with him one day down at his house, and we spent the whole day cutting lumber.
Yeah, you gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, like I mean, I've known Mike for probably about the last 6-7 years, and I never considered how much work is in just cutting lumber and pieces. Now he makes a variety of calls, but you know, I mean, just like box calls, you know, I mean, if you make however many box calls a year, you got to cut them blanks out. You got to cut the lids.
You're making your own parts.
Yeah. Yep. Everything.
Yeah.
You know, so like I said, we tinkered around that day, and he sent me home with a bunch of lumber, and he's like, "Here, go home and make scratch boxes." And I'm like, "Oh, all right. Well, yeah, I'll try and figure it out." So it's just a walnut striker, a black limbo box body. This is what they would call a cost style scratch box, made basically like the style Neil Cost would have made back in the day.
So that's basically what you got there is like hollow box with a little bit of space for the air to exit.
Yep. There's like, this is your soundboard. Yep. And you can thin them down, get a little bit of different sound out of them, things like that.
I was gonna say, like the thickness of that along with the friction.
Yeah, or even the striker itself can make a difference or make a difference.
It's crazy because I didn't realize this world was out there.
Well, this is blowing my mind here because this is definitely where my paper is.
Yeah, turkey call. I think of the slate.
To think something, I've killed a bunch of turkeys with a scratch box. I actually have a cedar scratch box a guy built for me back, I think it was like '92. And it's just, I carried in one of the old plastic soap containers.
Right.
You put it right in your shirt pocket. But man, the turkeys just love it. There's something about it that, they can't resist it.
And that's another thing. Like when you find something that works, it's like, it's like fishing. You find that bait that works. It's hard to go off to something else.
It is. Yeah. But there's times where, like the last couple of years, I got more into hunting with the yelpers and wing bones and cane calls and trumpets and things like that. And they actually say that using a call like that sound will actually travel further than like a long box or a pot call. You would think with a paddle call, everybody thinks of paddle calls, which they are mostly made for locating. You'll kill turkeys with them, but they're loud. You know what I mean? But they've actually done studies that proves that sound coming out of that trumpet, which it's basically like a horn. So it's as it's exiting that barrel, I guess it's sending it further sound waves wise, than what you would think on a regular pod or a box call would sound. But I've noticed turkeys respond to these, like, well, I wouldn't say instantly, but there's something about them.
Take a liking to it.
Yeah. I wish I would have started hunting with these years ago.
They might have to change their tactics.
Yeah.
In the woods, you're opening up a whole new world to us here, Jason.
And it's, with these, like I said, it was like 2016. Now I've ran wing bones, but as far as a trumpet or sounding half decent on them, I never thought I'd ever figure it out, but I stayed with it. And I'm still no professional. Yeah. Like there's guys out there, they sound like pure turkey, I do just enough to convince them that I am a turkey.
Yeah. Every turkey, sounds, they know that every turkey knows what it's looking to hear.